Turn, if you would, to Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9. Let's start verse 1. In the first year of Darius, son of Xerxes, a Mede by descent, who was made ruler over the Babylonian kingdom. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood from the Scriptures, according to the word of God, the word of the Lord, given to Jeremiah the prophet, that the desolation of Jerusalem would last 70 years. So I turned to the Lord God and pleaded with him in prayer and petition, in fasting, in sackcloth, and in ashes. I prayed to the Lord my God and confessed, O Lord, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of love with all who love him and obey his commands, we have sinned and done wrong. We have been wicked and rebelled. We have turned away from your commands and laws. We have not listened to your servant and your prophets, who spoke in your name to our kings, our princes, and our fathers, and to all the people of the land. Skip to verse 15. Now, O Lord our God, who brought your people out of Egypt with a mighty hand, and made for yourself a name that endures to this day, we have sinned and we have done wrong. O Lord, in keeping with all your anger and wrath from Jerusalem, your city, your holy hill, our sins and the iniquities of our fathers have made Jerusalem and your people an object of scorn to all those around. Now, our God, hear the prayers and petitions of your servant. For your sake, O Lord, look with favor on your desolate sanctuary. Give ear, O God, and hear. Open your ears and see, eyes and see the desolation of the city that bears your name. We do not make request of you because we are righteous, but because of your great mercy. O Lord, listen. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hear and act. For your sake, O my God, do not delay, because your city and your people bear your name. And while I was speaking and praying, confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, making my request to the Lord for his holy hill, while I was still in prayer, Gabriel, the man I'd seen in the earlier vision, came to me in swift flight from the time of the evening sacrifice. He instructed me and said to me, Daniel, I now come to give you insight and understanding. As soon as you begin to pray, an answer is given, which I have come to tell you for your highly esteemed. Therefore, consider the message and understand the vision. 70 sevens, or 70 times 7, are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and anoint the most holy. Know and understand this. From the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets in the trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, an anointed one will be cut off and will have nothing. The people, the ruler, will come and will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue to the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7, and in the middle of the 7 he'll put an end to the sacrifice. And on the wing of the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end is decreed. The end that is decreed is poured out on him. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for the day you've given us and the many blessings, especially the opportunity to study your word. Help us to guide us and to apply our lives. In your Son's name. All right. Continuing our study of Daniel. Got this lesson, and next week's our last 2 lessons from Daniel. You remember, it's written to provide hope to God's people, both then and now, to show how God uses the powers of this world to do his will. Show how the battle is really a spiritual battle, not a physical battle. And to show how he judges the nations of this world. And to show ultimately how Jerusalem will be victorious over Babylon. Last week we looked at chapter 8, I believe it was. Yeah, chapter 8. But we saw how there was going to be an all-out assault on God and his people during the time of the 2nd and 3rd kingdom, specifically the 3rd kingdom. The vision was about a goat, which was Greece, under under Alexander, how it would cross the earth without touching and collide with the ram, which is Persia, the second kingdom, shattering its horns, conquering it. Out of the ram horn would come four horns, because one would quickly be replaced by four, and out of the one would become one single horn that would come from it, that would come at a later time. Now, this one that came later was Atticus the Fourth. We looked at that, and how he would set himself up as Prince of Hosts. Matter of fact, he called himself Epiphanes, which means God manifested, claiming to be God here on earth, or whatever. He would cause God's people to rebel and become Hellenistic. Matter of fact, if you look at the other script chapters I told you to look at, he would bring a new God that was not a God at all. That was Hellenism. That's what it was. It wasn't the Greek gods. It was this lifestyle that was Hellenistic. And he brought it and permeated right into the temple with that and the priesthood. He would take away the daily sacrifices and defile the temple. We saw how that took place, and it would last for 2,300 evening and morning sacrifices, which is basically half of that in days, which is about the time that was from the time the sacrifice ended till the time it was taken back up again under Maccabees. And in the end, he'd be destroyed, but not by man. We looked at that, and then we come in today, chapter 9. In chapter 9, I'm calling it Repent, because the kingdom of heaven is coming. Chapter 9, before we do that, I want to we talked about it off and on, but we'll kind of go over a couple things, because chapter 9 is very, very difficult and very often misinterpreted. It's used to promote premillennialism in many, many ways, even though if you really take it in context, you have to make leaps to do this.
Right.
First thing we need to do is look at that the problems most people have in interpretation is we're looking back. We're looking back at what was written, and we're trying to make it fit ideas and concepts we already have. We need to be very careful about that, because it was not written to look back, it's written to look forward. It was written to Daniel and his people to look forward.
Right.
Many try to make it into the end of time, when in reality everything in Daniel culminates at the end of Judaism and the beginning of the kingdom of heaven. Every one of the prophecies that were listed, we're talking about the fourth kingdom and God's kingdom coming. And when Jesus came, we a lot of times say he preached the gospel, but he didn't. He preached that the kingdom of heaven is at hand.
Amen.
Because that was what is taking place. That's what was taken. So when we talk about the end, it's not meaning the end of time. It's meaning the end of time as they knew it, as Judaism.
Amen.
All this took place during the Fourth Empire. Another problem with interpretation is this. Daniel's questions in this particular chapter are about the restoration of two things: God's people and the city of Jerusalem. That's what he's asking about. So when he gives an understanding from Gabriel, it's going to answer those two questions.
Amen.
And a lot of times we turn around and try to come up with new answers that mean something else. Well, he wasn't asking about something else. He asked about those two things. So Gabriel comes to him to give him swiftly to give him a good answer. Another problem we have is there are many abominations that cause desolation. And every time we read that in the New Testament, we try to all lump it into one. There are a lot of things that cause God, that are abomination to God, all through the Bible, that causes him to spit them out of their mouth and to cause desolation or ruin. I mean, all you have to do is go back to Noah. All that they did was an abomination, and he created desolation. And so as we see this, sometimes, like last week, was referring to something that happened during the Third Empire, Atticus Epiphanes. And then the week before that, we was talking about something that happened during the Fourth Empire, which was Titus and Vespasian, his dad. And so we see different things, and so when we look at this, don't jump to conclusions. We need to be careful of that. And then one more thing, many judgments are in the Bible, but it only talks about one end twice. One end being the end of physical Israel, that we talked about it for a long time, and one end talking about the end of spiritual Israel. When we're talking to Daniel, he's talking about the end of Israel physically. And then later, when we see in the New Testament, then we start talking about the end. We're talking about the end of spiritual Israel, about the church, the kingdom on this earth. All right. Daniel is about 4 kingdoms and the beginning of God's kingdom. We need to look at Daniel as he would have. We need to look at it in context. And above all, when the text tells us what it is, let's take that and go from there. Sometimes we ignore that when it says point blank, it happened during the such and such empire. All right, with all that said, I want us to take a look at this today. If we don't get done, that's okay, because there is way too much to get into this. I'm already, next week is chapter 12, which is the end, and it actually jumps, and so it's going to blend into next week. I don't like to leave things hanging with a cliffhanger, so I'll try to leave us at a conclusion, but if we need to go into next week, we probably will, because there is a lot to get into this. All right, with all that being said, today we have the 9th chapter. We find that this takes place when he sees this vision under which king? The first year of Darius or Cyrus. The first year that the Medes take over. So the Medes have taken over. Babylon is gone. He takes over and we find that this is the case where he makes this situation and talks about it. All right? And he makes his plea to God. In the first year of his reign, I understood, and this is something because we're going to talk, first he talks about the 70 years. What does Daniel say he understood the 70 years to be?
Completion of the exile.
No. That the desolation of Jerusalem would last 70 years. Okay? What is he talking about? The city of Jerusalem. That's what he sees and he's talking about. And he references back to Jeremiah. We need to understand that that's what he's talking about, is the desolation or the wasteland that God made of the city of Jerusalem, the province of the country of Israel, his homeland. And obviously he's wanting to go back, as John was alluding to, and everything to be all okay again. But in his mind, he relates it to the desolation of Jerusalem. That's important because when you go back to Jeremiah, Jeremiah doesn't say that. In Jeremiah chapter 25, verse 11, he says that God was going to lay waste to the land, and all those nations that he destroyed will serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. He didn't say it would be laid waste for 70 years. He said that it would be laid waste and that all these nations, including Israel, would serve the king of Babylon for a period of time of 70 years. Chapter 29, verse 10, he says, and when the 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you. So what Jeremiah was understanding had to do with the desolation of Jerusalem, but what Jeremiah was actually saying, what Daniel thought he was talking about was the desolation of Jerusalem and the surrounding area, but what Jeremiah was talking about was the period of time they would be under Babylonian rule. At this particular time, Babylon is ended. They have moved in, the Medes and Persians have moved in, and they are now in control. Daniel has been in Babylon for how long? 67 or 68 years. He knows this 70 is coming up. He's an old man. He knows that God promised in 70 years, he was thinking the city of Jerusalem, But God made a promise that something would happen in 70 years. And so he was sitting there thinking about this taking place. And so he decided that they needed to make things right. You know? So we find that he enters into a prayer to God. In this prayer, he says, I turned to the Lord and pleaded in petition and prayer and fasting. And in this prayer, which you can go through and read, we read just a portion of it. The first thing he did is he acknowledged what? What did he acknowledge about them?
That they had sinned.
They had sinned. They were wicked and rebellious, is the terms he says. He made it flat out. The first thing he said was, we did it. We're responsible. We're wicked. We're undeserving. We rebelled. And that was the thing God had from the very beginning was he hated rebellion. He hated people who put their faith in others. That's what it was all about. The next thing he did is he acknowledged their shame, because look at them. The great people of God were living how? Desolation back in the homeland and everywhere else in captivity. The shame that they had brought on God's people because of what they had done, because of their unfaithfulness to Him. He went on to acknowledge that God, the part we didn't read, did exactly like He promised. See, in Deuteronomy, Moses told them what would happen if they rebelled against God. He described it in detail. As a matter of fact, you need to go back and read it. It's in detail as far as how the people would be in siege and by the enemy, how they would eat their own and everything to survive. I mean, God said that. Moses said that to those people as part of the curse. He clearly laid out that would happen. And so we find that at this time, Daniel acknowledges that God was right. He was just. They deserved it. And God just did exactly what He told them He would do. Was it not God's fault? It was their fault. And so that's what He's saying in His prayer. And then He starts pleading. And He pleads for the restoration of Jerusalem and His people after 70 years. That gets us to the latter part where I started reading. Problem is I've been using too many Bibles this last week, so I'm looking at different versions of different things. Now, here are prayers, petitions, look on favor. Desolate sanctuary. What's he concerned about? What's he thinks about to be fixed? The desolation of the sanctuary. The desolation of Israel. Open your eyes and see the desolation of the city. Because of your great mercy, come and act for your sake, no delay, because your city and your people bear your name. He's pleading in prayer for them to come because of the city and the people. All right, that brings us to about verse 20. He understood that this desolation would last for 70 years. And he thinks, time's up. What's he thinks about to happen? He thinks God's going to put them back in there. What has God promised would come in the future? The Messiah, the King, the one that would come and rule on the throne. He's thinking, okay, now we're about to get back to our kingdom. Everything would be great again. God will make us great again. That's what He's looking for. That's what everybody was looking for. I mean, all the way up to Peter. That's what Peter was looking for. Okay? So that's what He's looking for, the restoration of Jerusalem and His people after the 70 years. But the desolation of Jerusalem is not going to last for 70 years. There's a misunderstanding on His part. So Gabriel comes to him and says, wait a minute. While he was praying, we find that Gabriel, one he had seen in a vision earlier, comes and instructs me and says, I've come to give you insight and understanding. He didn't want him to be confused and think something was going to happen in a couple of years that wasn't really going to take place. Instead, he says, for 77s, or some would say 77, some would say 70 times 7. But 77s are decreed for your people. What was he making petition for? The people and your people. I put my finger on that. And your holy city. That's the other thing he's making petition for. So he comes and answers that question about your people and your holy city. All right? So 77s comes. That's 490 years. Just about every scholar would agree that that is correct. And as we go through look at this, we'll see that that makes sense. So a period of four, not 77s and everything's going to be restored, but instead, listen to me. There's going to be 490 years for what? For your people and your holy city. What about them? Then he gives a nice, neat list. I like that because he tells us in that time frame, those 77s, certain things are going to take place. First of all, it's to finish transgression. What does he mean by that? That's one version. There's other versions that say similar things. Finish, do what?
That their sins will reach
Yes.
the level.
Reach the level. There you go. That's it.
Just like they said that the Canaanites.
I kept wanting to go back, and I never did. In all those studies, go back to that verse in Scripture where he says that the Canaanites finally reached the level that before that, God said it wasn't their time yet. And then he said, okay, it's time. He sends them in there to destroy. That's what he means when he says to finish the transgressions until it is time that they have sinned all he's going to take. It's exactly the same thing that took place in the time of Noah. It came to a point that the time was up and it was time for judgment. That's what he means here. Okay? To finish the transgressions of his people. That's what he's talking about. His people in Jerusalem. In addition to that, he says to put an end to sin. What does that mean? No more sin? Genesis chapter 3, what happened? In the garden, dude comes walking up to Eve. Man sins. Sin comes into the world and becomes a problem for man. And it has been a problem for man all the way up until when? Till Jesus. Okay. So he's saying that he'll put an end to sin, meaning that there will be a time, during this period, there will be a fix to this problem that man has. To solve the sin problem that man has, that man can't do anything about. So put an end to sin. Not to make all people perfect, but to put an end, and that there will never be a sinner ever again, but to put an end to sin controlling the world like it is because he had a fix for it. The next thing was to atone for wickedness. What does he mean?
That's the answer to the sin. Jesus atoned for it.
Atone for the wickedness. There was a sacrifice that was made once and for all. The end. At that moment, there was atonement for wickedness. Up until then, it was kind of a rolling. We talked about a putting off. There was no complete forgiveness. At this time, there would be atone for wickedness once and for all. To bring in everlasting righteousness. What does he mean by that? I remember what Paul says in Romans. Abraham had a righteousness that was not his own. It was credited to him by God. It was a different kind of righteousness than what they had. What did they have until that time? They had a righteousness that was dependent upon you doing right. But at this time, an everlasting righteousness would be basically a righteousness that was credited to man because of his faith and his trust in him, just like Abram said. Yes, sir.
Hebrews 1:8 says, but about the Son he says, your throne, O God, will last forever and ever, and righteousness will be the scepter of your kingdom.
Amen. Good. There's a lot of things, Hebrews parallels right here. In fact, I wrote a bunch down later. Good. Very good. Glad you got that. Or brought that up. I didn't get that. Let write that for future reference.
Hebrews 1:8.
Hebrews 1:8. Thank you. All right. The next one is to seal up vision and prophecy. What has vision and prophecy been about? Who's coming?
Coming back to Jesus.
Coming of Christ. Christ is going to come. The Messiah would come. He would rule. He would come. So he's talking about those things that relate to the anointed one. He's going to talk more about that in a minute. To anoint the most holy one. Yes, sir.
This goes back again to Hebrews 1:1. It says, in the past, God spoke to our forefathers through the prophets at many times in various ways, but in these last days, He has spoken to us by His Son.
Okay. This is when he's talking about sealing up vision and prophecy. The next one is to anoint the most holy one. Who's the most holy one?
Jesus.
Jesus. So all of these things will take place in this 77s, or this 490-year period of time. That's what's going to take place to accomplish this. So instead of answering the question about when are we going to go back in 2 or 3 years and forgive us so we can go back to there and to bring back Jerusalem to its glory, he says that's not what I was talking about. Instead, to answer that, let me give you an idea what's going to happen. 490 years is going to take place, and during this 490-year time frame, to bring about these things. Okay? So he says this is what's going to take place. Now, think about it from Daniel's point of view. Daniel was not looking backward and trying to fit things into his own ideas. He was looking forward, saying, wow, 490 years, I just heard 70. Now all of a sudden there's 490 years and all these things, and the anointed one is coming. That's not happening for a long time. He's getting a different picture, which is exactly what he was being given. That's exactly what they were trying to do for him. All right? Then he goes on and says, in addition to that, there will be 7 sevens and 62, let's say, to restore and return until the anointed one, wait a minute, I'm jumping ahead. Verse 25. That was 24. Verse 25, understand this. And he gives something that is very interesting. Remember I said, let the Bible interpret itself when it can? He says, from till. Okay, he just defined something. From the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler or prince, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. All right? So we see that there will be 69 sevens from the time of the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem till the end, until the anointed or the prince or the ruler, Christ, comes. Okay? 69. All right. So the question is, when was the anointing? When was the issuing of the decree? I don't know. As a matter of fact, I got piles of books in my study area. Everybody's got an idea. But you know what? One thing is told us. When is the end of the 69? When the anointed one comes. I can go backwards. Okay? That is defined. We know about when that was. The text tells us when that is. So he says from the issuing of the decree to, and there's 2 things he says here. Just a second. There's 2 things he says here. A lot of times we mix them together. He says restore and rebuild the temple. Is he talking about restoring the temple? No. He's talking about restoring and rebuilding the temple. What is he restoring? What is gone?
Temple worship.
The temple worship. The way of life, the way of God. So he's talking about restoring the way God wanted them to live and rebuilding the temple. Okay, when we take that in mind and we go backwards in time, guess what time it brings us to? A time during Ezra and Nehemiah when Ezra went back, and what is Ezra's job? If I remember, we just studied on Wednesday night. Do what? He was a priest and a scribe. He was there to reinstitute and to get the temple worship going and to get the people right. Matter of fact, he went through in the marriage problem. He cleaned all that up. He was there to restore. And who went to rebuild? It doesn't say the temple. It says Jerusalem. What did I say? Did I say it wrong? Rebuild Jerusalem. Who rebuilt Jerusalem? Not the temple. Nehemiah. So if you go back that 69 sevens, which is 490 minus 7, you go back to then, you land right smack dab in the middle of it, Ezra and Nehemiah doing that. Do I know when the decree was? The Bible doesn't tell me. And if you start trying to figure it out on man schedules and different times and different readings and whatever, you run into about 3 different calendars that will confuse you. So it really doesn't matter. The point was, after the time that God said, I'm going to send somebody back to restore the temple worship and to rebuild the Jerusalem, when I do that, there will be 69 sevens before the Messiah comes. That's basically what he said. Okay? Yes?
I just want to say there's one thing that people seem to forget a lot right here. It's the 7 sevens and 62 sevens. That meant something to Daniel. The 49 sevens, and when I look at that, that reminds me of Jubilee, when people get their possessions back. The 49 sevens is when God gets his possession back. He's bringing back his people. And the 62 sevens is kind of like when the people were in Egypt. They were there for over 400 years, and it was totally silent. Well, what we see after this period is there were no prophets for years and years and years and years until Jesus came.
Absolutely.
So I think he might have looked at this and said, wow, God's going to claim us back, but there's going to be a long period of silence.
Amen. And that's when the 62 sevens basically come in, because it's just a period of time from then until then. And as we studied on Wednesday night, when we finished a week or 2 ago, or Lloyd did, we just kind of went into nothing. Nobody knows until suddenly we get to Matthew chapter 1 and Christ is being announced that he's coming. And so we see that, and he goes on, and then it says, till the anointed one, the ruler or prince comes. The Messiah is the anointed, God's ruler, the Prince of Peace. Therefore, after the 69 sevens, we find that the Messiah comes. All right. He goes on to say that during that first time, at the beginning of this, the city will be rebuilt with streets and a trench. Some other translations say a wall. What was the purpose of a wall? Keep them safe. What was the purpose of a trench? Keep them safe. I'm not a Hebrew scholar, but the whole idea is that which protects the people would be built. That's what Nehemiah did. And actually it went on beyond building the walls. They had to build streets and people would start living in there and everything else. So that would take place. After the 62 sevens, then it says, the anointed one will be cut off and have nothing. All right. And I'm going to get it to that point. We're going to hold there. So after the 62 sevens, the anointed one will come, but something's going to happen. What's going to happen to him? He's going to be rejected. I like the way he said it, because a lot of times it's, it says cut off and we think death. No. It's talking about being rejected and having no one. Do you remember what happened in John? John reports it, that when Jesus is led before the people and Pilate is saying, here is your king. And what did the people say? We have no other king but Caesar. Daniel is talking about the coming king and kingdom. All his prophecies are about that. And so here he is saying that the anointed one, the one that's going to be king, to rule on David's throne for eternity, that's coming during this time frame, he is going to come, but he isn't going to have anybody because he's going to be rejected. And that's exactly what took place. And John records it. He's the only writer that does that. But he writes that they flat out say, we have no other king but Caesar. That's what he's talking about.
Because most of them would have choked, they would have said any other moment.
And yeah, they would never have said that because I hated Caesar and I hated everything he stood for. As a matter of fact, they're about to start a riot that's going to last for 30-something years and eventually end to their end, which we'll talk about next week. I hate to do that. But we will look at that and how that ties in and everything, because everybody tries to make this into this end and say, well, it's got to cram it into this last 7 and all those things. All right, so this is what's talking up to that 62, after the 62 sevens. Next week, we will take the 7th 7, the last 7, and what he talks about there in the latter part of this chapter. We'll talk about it. But we'll also move into the next chapter in the book, which is chapter 13, or lesson number 13, which is chapter 12 in Daniel, which is basically the end of the matter. Okay? All right. I know I talked fast, and I hope it was clear, because the hardest thing about it is trying to get a bunch of information and make it understandable without getting too bogged down in details. All right. Thank you very much.